70,000 people are here, and Bob Dylan is the reason for it.
Inspired by their true story.
For anyone who's gonna hold your attention on a stage, you have to kind of be a freak.
Are you a freak?
Hope so.
And starring Timothée Chalamet as Bob Dylan. He defied everyone.
Turn it down!
Play loud!
To change everything.
Make some noise, BD.
Timothée Chalamet, Edward Norton, Elle Fanning, Monica Barbaro. A complete unknown. Only in theaters Christmas Day. Rated R. Under 17, not admitted without parent.
News team, assemble!
It's back and bigger than ever. It's the Unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carrie, Josh, Eddie, and
George. All right, welcome back. It is the Unofficial 40 podcast right here on Soonerscoop.com. Most all your friends, as happy birthday to Josh McQuistion, who is celebrating it. We're hoping like maybe a very drunken Josh will call in at some point during the podcast, but he's deserving of a day off of the pod with the birthday here.
You know who else had a birthday today? Probably didn't take the day off.
I'm trying to think.
It's very obvious.
Hold on.
Brent Venables.
Oh, Brent Venables. That's right.
Brent Venables' birthday.
Happy
very
birthday.
happy birthday for Brent Venables today as well, in light of the news coming out on Wednesday evening. We waited a little bit for this podcast. Because there's an obvious out there.
We're doing this later at night. It's current almost 8 o'clock. OU's getting ready to tip off against Michigan. But the Sooners got their man, the guy that they absolutely had to have in the transfer portal. Some had him ranked as the number 1 overall transfer portal player, currently, at least when he committed, and the number 1 overall quarterback, and that being John Mateer, the Washington State transfer. He commits tonight publicly to the Sooners. I know the coaches took him out to dinner afterwards, and it has just been a fantastic visit. He got here late last night, and guys, we're going to talk about this, but there's so many things that went on today as he got onto campus. And look, we told you guys, like, OU feels really good where they are. And, I don't know that the OU coaches felt like, this is going to be an open and shut case. He's going to come in, he's going to sign what he's going to sign, and then he's here. But that wasn't how today worked out. And George is going to tell us some things that are really interesting along the way. But, yeah, we welcome in Eddie Radosevich and George Schroeder. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get – we're still getting text about things that are going on and transpiring. But the biggest thing is Ben Arbuckle, he's got his quarterback. He's got his quarterback coach. The offense has something to build around. And real quick, John Mateer wasn't the only commitment that the Sooners got today. They also pull in 2 receivers in Keontae Lewis. That was a talking burp. Wide receiver Keontae Lewis, Southern Illinois, and wide receiver Giovanni Gibson, Arkansas Pine Bluff. I watched the Giovanni Gibson tape today. I think we were watching a little bit of Gabe's In the Weeds on the Oklahoma Breakdown, and he's a talented-looking guy, and 6'3", 205 pounds. Look, there's not a lot of receivers running around the Switzer Center right now, and he's a guy that looks to fit in with this group that they've got.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot to like. You certainly love the idea of him coming in with a quarterback that has been in the offense before. There's some familiarity there, obviously, with what Ben Arbuckle and John Mateer were able to do this season, and the numbers are gaudy. I think there's going to be plenty of questions to get into if they're going to be able to replicate that once they get to Norman in full, but a good day. I mean, you start looking at that wide receiver unit, and we talked about it on the Instant Reaction that you can watch on Soonerscoop.com's YouTube channel. George, just in terms of, it seems like there's momentum, and we've talked about this now for a couple weeks, and particularly here over the last couple days with John Mateer entering the transfer portal. It was going to be important that they found some success and certainly found their quarterback in getting the commitment Wednesday night. You hope that kind of bubbles over, and you think that, like, you think about Giovanni Gibson, and then obviously the kid from Southern Illinois. And you have to think that there was some conversations with John Mateer in the crossover come this morning.
Yeah, there definitely was. Talking to some people close to those receivers and just OU folks, it sounds like Mateer kind of told those guys early Wednesday, hey, let's go, get in the boat, commit. And OU felt good about those guys, and it sounded like they had kind of relayed like, hey, we really love the trip, and that OU was in a good spot. But I think that Mateer was kind of that final push when he got into town late Tuesday night. So that certainly helped, and they've got a couple more guys on campus now. I mean, Isaiah Satanga from Arkansas is a guy they really like. He's currently on campus. Sounds like that visit is going extremely well. In fact, I wouldn't be shocked if he makes a decision here in the next few days. Jaron Bradley from Boston College, also previously at Texas Tech with Emmett Jones. He's also on campus right now. I think OU's going to probably add around 4 or 5 wide receivers. And so we'll see if they add another visitor. I know Cam Vaughn from Jacksonville State is another guy they're interested in. Devontae Ross as well. I know everybody out there wants to hear about Zachariah Branch and his brother. I just don't feel like that's going to happen. That price tag is very high.
If you have millions of dollars out there and you're listening, I think One Oklahoma would like. If you want Zachariah Branch, you could get him. You might call One Oklahoma and or go get in their DMs, slide in their DMs. If you really want Zachariah Branch, you better have millions of dollars because you're going to get his brother too.
Yeah, and yes. I would say too, like I think that when you talk about John Mateer and Oklahoma landing his commitment on Wednesday, you got to give props to One Oklahoma, right, for getting this in line. This was the largest deal that they've put together, and certainly kind of played out as Oklahoma fans hoped that it would.
Well, and it was a day of ups and downs, and let's get into that. I mean, we knew that he had gotten here last night. We were all here pretty early today, just waiting, and it ended up being a big waiting game. But I think the first thing, George, was that we heard that Miami was definitely getting their foot in the door and basically getting some offers on the table that made John Mateer kind of not have second thoughts, but raise the price a little, I would say.
Definitely. That's how, I mean, I know you guys talked to a bunch of people today too, but there was probably a moment today that we all were like, okay, OU's going to have to maybe add on a little bit to what we thought the original price was, which is normal. A good agent is definitely going to do that. And with Miami throwing some of the numbers at him that we've heard, it would make sense.
Stupid John Ruiz money.
But the one that kind of came out of nowhere that I just heard about.
Yeah, we got. Well,
I will say, John Ruiz, he's pardoned by the president.
Is he?
Yeah, he's cleared now.
The new president or the one now?
Well, I mean, is there one now? You got to step into that one.
Anyway, back on track. I promise.
Whether you're ordering wings for the game, whipping up a 7-layer dip, or ordering pizza, there's something about football that makes you want to eat. And this football season, Uber Eats has the best deals on game day food. No matter what you're craving, from 2-for-1 pizza to buy one, get one wings, Uber Eats will be dropping new deals each week, all season long. Uber Eats, official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Order now. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details.
To close out the Miami thing, I think it was probably, 3-ish, maybe 2:33 where we started hearing okay, OU feels like they've got this thing together, and Miami is now feeling like they might not have a shot here.
Yeah, I would say that's an accurate timeline. And then we found out, 5 or so that it was this is happening.
Yeah.
It felt like.
I think the crazy part about all this, and I know that we want to get into it, is everybody had their sights set on Miami. That might not have been the school that was truly the suitor today.
Yeah, there's a surprise entrance into the contest that we just found about late tonight, George.
Yeah, I just was talking to some folks, and it was North Carolina that kind of came out of nowhere today. And in fact, it was relayed to me that Bill Belichick was reaching out to Mateer's group. One Tom Brady, on behalf of Bill Belichick, was reaching out to Mateer's group.
I mean, think about that. This kid, he obviously, I think most people are familiar with the way that he ended up at Washington State from Little Elm, got under-recruited. All of a sudden, he wakes up on December 18th, and he's in Norman, Oklahoma, and he's fielding phone calls from Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. I mean, my God.
It's insane. But so, I mean, I think that speaks to the job that Oklahoma, and one Oklahoma in particular, too, the collective, did in keeping this guy and holding on to him, because I do think that the plan all along, was John Mateer was getting in the portal to go to Oklahoma. And when Ben Arbuckle left, that is what was going to happen. And, was it a part of the package deal when Ben Arbuckle's hired? I don't know. I know we've heard things like that maybe that was a part of the pitch. I have no idea. I can't verify that, but it's a huge day. It's a huge day for Oklahoma, not only for next season and the momentum, but just the perception, because there's been a lot of talk, even by us the last couple of weeks. It's like, what the hell is the plan? What's going on? And I think we all thought this would end up happening, but for it to come to fruition the way that it did, and it looks like there has always been a plan in terms of these receivers. It's clear that they lined up these receivers to be in town when John Mateer was here. And now the offensive tackle coming in tomorrow, too, from Georgia Tech.
That was interesting about the timeline of their recruiting and what that said about Mateer and how confident he was going to end up. Here's the thing. Like, the thing you didn't mention about Belichick and Brady is that it wasn't Miami that they were that we all thought, well, he's going to end up in Miami after this if they don't close the deal. They were, from what you were told, they were ready to get on a plane and fly to Chapel Hill tomorrow.
Correct.
That's what's insane. I guess you get Bill Belichick and Tom Brady calling you, any quarterback. I just got another tidbit to the story as we're sitting here. You know what OU did to counter that?
No.
They called on one Baker Reagan Mayfield.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
So he got involved in the recruiting of John Mateer.
That's amazing.
That is awesome.
That's awesome.
Look, this is the thing for Oklahoma. They got to use those resources. Like,
sure.
That shit has to happen. And we know, too, like, there was, because we always talk about, does OU have the money to go get these guys? It sounds like this was a full-fledged effort from a lot of people that aren't just, the one big, money donor that we all know about. It sounds like that there were several people that came in and helped get this done.
Well,
and that's what has to happen.
You saw what happened at Alabama today, or maybe you didn't, but today Greg Byrne, the athletic director of Alabama, came out, and, it's Alabama. They've been on the king of the mountain forever. And for their AD to basically come out and say, we need more financial support, a lot of people are trying to clown them, but that's not really that different from what's going on at Oklahoma. And what people have to realize is one or two big money donors cannot carry the full load. They need people who love Oklahoma football. And look, maybe you haven't seen the outreach, or maybe people haven't talked to you or come to you and asked for money. And I think there's some frustration with some of the donors that we've talked to. Like, we want to help, but no one tells us what to do. And there's so much confusion because there's so many fundraising arms through the university. They want to know, who do we give money to pay players? Like, that's essentially what you're having to do. So that's something that I think a message that needs to continue. And join1oklahoma.com is, the site that, you need to be looking at and talking to. If you want to help Oklahoma close deals like this and fend off a Miami, fend off a Tom Brady, you need, and you have the money. We're not asking for, I don't think the crowdsourcing thing or the crowdfunding thing is going to get OU over the top. They need more big money donors willing to come in and help them fight against these, Missouris and Oregons and Texases and Texas A&Ms. And we've talked about it before, like, people have no idea how much money Texas threw at Michael Fasusi there at the finish line. And fortunately for OU, he was totally bought in, and it didn't really affect him. But that's what's happening to the best players that are on OU's current roster and the players that they're recruiting against.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think that, this is kind of like a jumping off point, if you will, just in terms of what they can do. I think that there's a nice collection of people in place that are more than willing to help in that regard. And it's more about, this is going to be kind of used as a little bit of a foundation, if you will, in terms of what Oklahoma can accomplish. Because don't get it twisted. This was a deal that Oklahoma, the coaching staff, and certainly One Oklahoma, they had to work together today to get this done. I think that's probably the safest thing you can say about, kind of behind the scenes and how today came to what it was tonight.
Yeah, and just, a lot of people that, got, like as you said, got together to make this work. And, we are kind of hearing from some of the donors out there, and they're willing to do what it needs to be taken.
Sure.
Do what needs to be done in order to pull this off. So you just need to kind of build that network, and I think it'll form and make Oklahoma better. Now, I don't think we can go without saying how badly today could have gone. I mean,
oh my gosh,
this if John Mateer did not end up at Oklahoma, I don't think Brent Venables has a chance to survive.
Well, I think that, when he entered the portal and you start getting the the idea, okay, this is really coming together. We had talked about it, whether it be on the Unofficial 40 or on any of the YouTube shows, just in terms of what that meant and how important it was to get somebody in here. And, you could think the world of Michael Hawkins, and he could end up still being the next guy. But at the same time, I think that knowing how important it's going to be here immediately for Oklahoma to find some success offensively, and particularly Ben Arbuckle, just having the familiarity there with a quarterback and a play caller, it's important. I think it means the world. And now you can start going into kind of what it all means here moving forward. And, can you start developing more of this class? And can you start attracting the attention of other people through the portal that maybe you didn't think that you were going to be able to get going into this today?
Well, and George, I think when you look at Oklahoma's setup now offensively going into 2025, the prospects are much higher than they would have been. I mean, Jackson Arnold, certainly, we all felt bad, the way he was developed this year. The receivers that were injured, he had no help, and really he didn't have great guidance as a young quarterback. And it really took a toll on him, I think, mentally, confidence-wise. So I hope he does really well at Auburn. And I think he will eventually. But that being said, even if Baker had come back next year, I think John Mateer is going to be a much more productive quarterback than a young Baker Mayfield would have been. I
was wondering where you were going with that with Baker.
What did I say, Baker?
Yeah, you said if Baker came back.
I'm so tired.
I know, you were falling asleep.
I was falling
asleep
power
in the
naps,
office.
like micro naps.
I'm starting to get there.
We're texting sources, like trying to figure out things, and Carrie's like texting and falling asleep. Like,
well, I don't know what you guys were just doing right over here.
At one point, my eyes were closing, and
I'll follow you home to make sure you don't.
I
run
heard
off
you
the
ask,
road.
"Are you falling asleep right now?" And it's like you literally sat there and watched me fall
Yes, I
asleep
did,
in a
yeah.
chair.
We'll take a video next time.
I had like 4 cups of coffee today.
Yeah, that's true, George. We did go to Starbucks around 4:00 today.
And see, I can't do that because I'll do exactly what you did,
which was
I'll end up in the bathroom.
I was in the bathroom when John Mateer committed,
and I'm gonna be. I'm just going to be awake now for a while, which isn't good for our boarding schedule.
Oh, God. No, but Jackson Arnold is who I was talking about. Like, if he came back,
sure,
I think you're in a better situation with John Mateer, with an offense that he knows how to run. He's experienced in it. He's had success in it. You've got Ben Arbuckle that I would say he's got to be better than Seth Luttrell. He has to be, or this thing goes backwards real fast.
But
it's a really good situation.
Yeah.
It would appear, and we'll see what happens with the rest of the portal and recruiting and guys that come in and how they young talented guys, like how quickly does Emmett get those guys up to speed. But I think you got to feel really good versus how you would have felt if he's walking out here and flying to Chapel Hill tomorrow.
Oh, I think that everybody's minds would have gone completely dark just in terms of what this is, and with the inaction that Oklahoma had made or the moves that they hadn't made in the portal contacting quarterbacks. Like it was either John Mateer or you go bust. To option whatever that was going to be. You're going to have to kind of put something together on the fly. And I don't know. There's just a comfortableness that comes with John Mateer now coming in, working with Ben Arbuckle. And, maybe there's a little bit of vision there that we didn't think was there.
It's interesting you say vision, Eddie, because
that's some pro shit right there.
That is some pro shit. And the vision to go after John Mateer, was the staff, and it paid off big for him, just like it could pay off big for you to go see your friends at Enjoy Vision.
All you got to do is go to enjoyvision.com. That is the letter NJOY, vision.com. They're giving away, basically give it away. They're $600 off LASIK. All you got to do is schedule a free consultation, $600. You drop our name, you drop my name. We're good friends over there. It's a little bit of a Christmas miracle, if you will, and the savings are at Enjoy Vision this holiday season. Consider this a gift from me to you. $600 off LASIK. Just go to enjoyvision.com, letter NJOY, vision.com, $600 off LASIK. Happy Merry savings from me as well as Enjoy Vision.
You know what I think that this does for us? I haven't been focused on Christmas at all. And it was nice to have the little Christmas announcement that One Oklahoma, that John Mateer released on his Instagram page. But I think I can start focusing on Christmas a little bit and breathe.
Yeah, I think so. We say that, we did disclose on the instant reaction this evening. George, you've come across some information just in terms of what the next couple days could look like. Obviously, I
think it's going to be busy.
There's still more visitors coming in, but there is an idea out there that Oklahoma kind of wants to wrap everything up by the time they get down to Fort Worth at the beginning of next week with the portal stuff.
That's what I've heard, is that they're hoping by Monday to kind of know exactly who's in and who's out on the portal. And right now they're at, is it 5 guys added? So I think it's going to end up being around 10, give or take a couple. Probably give a couple. I would bet that it's, over 10 or around 10. So we'll see. I think that they're going to try and add a couple more wide receivers. I think they're going to try and add a tight end, maybe a second tight end is what I was told today, a second offensive tackle. Corey Robertson is really the one to watch from Georgia Tech. He gets into town on Thursday. A defensive tackle, I think, is in play. James Thompson from Wisconsin gets into town. He is highly coveted right now by a lot of schools. Maybe an edge rusher, kicker, which doesn't really count towards your scholarship, but
we just watched him on television.
Yeah, the Western Kentucky.
Good-looking leg.
Carnerio kid, he is a good kicker.
If they could get him, he comes in on Friday. That'd be huge.
They would be talking about just the 2 specialists in terms of what they've been able to do in the portal with the Old Brick kid already committed.
Yeah.
I think that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
That would be about as good as you could possibly do it. Another tip in the another feather in the cap of Doug Deacon, who's done a pretty good job with that group all week. Corey Robinson's kind of the one that I'm super interested in coming in tomorrow.
Yeah, he's their I think number one priority at offensive tackle. I know a lot of people have asked me about the Washington State offensive tackle that entered the portal a couple days ago. I don't think they're really in on him. It sounds like he's already kind of maybe made up his mind on the few schools that he's looking at.
I saw Nebraska was maybe one of the schools that he had thrown out there. Maybe Oregon as well.
I don't think so, but if they can get Corey Robinson, I know that's a guy that they identified very early. He just finished up a visit at Arkansas and is getting into town on Thursday.
By the way, little sidebar. I mentioned Jackson Arnold with Auburn. What do you guys think of OU's portal entries and their landing spots so far? Anything really jump out as a surprise?
I think that if you would have told me, walking out of Tiger Stadium about, what was that, 2 weeks ago, that Nick Anderson and Bauer Sharp were going to be back there on the LSU roster, and even when they come to town in 2025, I would have said you're crazy. I think the Auburn stuff with Jackson Arnold is completely fascinating, and the kind of the, I don't know, the misdirection that everybody thought he was going to he's going to end up back with Jeff in Starkville, and then all of a sudden he's going to be opening up the SEC conference with the Auburn Tigers when they come to town in September, on September 20th. It's just, I don't know. I think that some of these guys have landed at spots that maybe eyes pop open a little bit, I didn't see that happening. Josh Bates ending up at SMU. Makari Vickers announced today he's going to be headed up to Boulder to play for Coach Prime. I don't know. I think that, at least for me, guys, I think that you look at where some of these guys ended up and you go, okay, we thought that these guys sucked at times last year, and rightfully so with the play on the field. Maybe it was a little bit better than we thought just in terms of the talent overall, but you still need to get some new guys in here, some fresh blood, and maybe just start from new, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I don't know. Maybe I'm just completely biased and trying to believe whatever makes me feel a little bit better.
I think that what you can take away from a lot of the guys they've taken in the portal is high risk, high reward. Like Giovanni Gibson's a really good example of that. He put up some monster stats this year. Now, it was at the FCS level for a program that's not any good.
Stinks.
But, what if he ends up being a pretty darn good player? And the thought process here, too, from Oklahoma is, look, they're going to take a lot of receivers. They just need one or two of those guys to really hit because you got Deion Burks back. If he stays healthy, you feel really good there. I know that's a big if, and people are probably yelling at the pod. But then if you can have one or two of the freshmen step up, if you can have an Elijah Thomas play, then you've got 4 or 5 guys that you feel pretty good about. Now you got to keep them healthy, but I understand some of the frustration with who they're maybe getting in the portal at wide receiver. But I think they're saying, hey, let's go get guys that aren't going to cost, that aren't going to break the bank necessarily, and could end up being really nice players for you.
Hey, it's Austin James. If you're like me, trying to live your best life while living with diabetes, you can relate to worrying if you're doing a good job managing your diabetes. I use the Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor to get real-time glucose readings and see the impact of every meal and activity to make better decisions. The Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor can help me live life with diabetes on my own terms, and it gives me more time for the things I love, like being a dad and a musician. Now this is progress. Learn more at freestylelibre.us.
For prescription only. Safety info found at freestylelibre.us.
Well, and I think that goes back to, look, you've got to manage your roster until guys become stars, because OU's proving one thing. If you become a standout like a Jaden Jackson, maybe unexpectedly, you're going to get paid. R. Mason Thomas, if you don't go to the NFL, you're going to get paid and stay at Oklahoma.
And OU showed that going back to last year. Danny Stutzman and Billy Bowman.
Yeah.
Those are two guys that they had to pay a lot of money to keep them on campus.
Sure.
So, I mean, but if you have a Nick Anderson who's always hurt and can't, his production is, good, but not a star player or an every down kind of guy you count on that puts up big numbers, like, you're not going to get $1 million. And this whole thing about receivers commanding $1 million, if you manage your roster right, you do not need $1 million receiver. You can win a national championship without $1 million receiver. Now,
it certainly helps.
It helps to have a Zachariah Branch, and I would love to see him running around on a field and covering that guy.
And we know Deion Burks, that was not a cheap expense to keep him.
And that's what I was getting ready to bring up is, like, you're going to look at the wide receiver core, whatever that ends up being. If they, even if you just stuck with the guys that you have right now, it's going to get lost in the equation. It's going to get lost in the mix that Oklahoma did pay up to get Deion Burks. Yep. And I think that, like, we truly haven't really seen what, I guess to a certain extent, like, what Deion Burks can be. I mean, we saw a glimpse of it.
It shows you, like, going back to the spring and before he got hurt in practice, that he was something that they just don't have.
Sure.
And something that's hard to find. Because for them to put that much money behind him shows you they have a shit ton of belief in him.
And I think that just he has all those, I'm sure that people don't care about this, but it feels like he has all those intangibles that you would want. Good locker room guy.
Yeah.
We love talking to him in the media. And he seems like he gets it to a certain extent.
Spoke to his dad today too. I wrote a story
ahead.
on him, but it sounds like it just comes from a great family, and it sounds like his dad was a big part in wanting him to stay at Oklahoma, and feels like that he has a lot to prove this year, and just that this year wasn't the year that anybody wanted.
And talk about, like, just the problems on the field, obviously
the house,
with the injury, and then everything that comes with off the field stuff. It just sucked. It was a shitty year for him.
Yeah, I think he wants to kind of just go out with a bang, and I think he also knows that he needs to prove a lot next year if he wants to play in the NFL.
And he mentioned, he watched a lot of film of Ben Arbuckle's offense, and really likes, the plan that they have for him is wide receiver, and fits what he wants to do and what he can do. So it's going to be exciting. I mean, we're going to have to wait till the spring to see a lot of this stuff. Hopefully
another spring of, like, this is going to be fun.
Yeah.
Because you don't really know.
Yeah.
And especially with Arbuckle and what they're going to, kind of put in as far as an offense, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And look, I think we all know.
Intriguing, I guess. Not awesome, intriguing.
This could flop. We all know that. But I do credit Oklahoma and Brent Venables for taking some big swings. And they knew, Brent knew that he had to go out and get a home run hire at OC, and we'll see if Ben Arbuckle is. We don't know, but it's a huge risk. And then he had to go get a quarterback, and he got the number one quarterback in the transfer portal.
And Bill Beanbo has to develop a lot of young guys on the offensive line.
Yeah, that's huge
for them to be able to, as we saw this past season, to just protect John Mateer. Real quick, the Unofficial 40 podcast is presented by Schwab Meats, the official champion of the holidays. They're making Christmas I would say Friendsmas more fun with another NIL partnership for the holiday season starring Billy Bowman, Jada Coleman, Kobe McKenzie, and Kinsey Hansen. Congratulations to that new engaged couple, taking competitiveness to a new level at the Friendsmas table, playing the MIL game Meet, Image, and Likeness.
Let's listen in on Friendsgiving dinner. They're playing the Schwab MIL game.
Meet, Image, Likeness. Kinsey, go.
Billy Bowman, ham? Billy Bo Ham Man.
Kobe McKenzie, turkey. Kobe McKenzie.
Jada Coleman, ham. Jada Cole ham man.
Kinsey Hansen, Turk Inzy Hammondson. Turk Inzy Hammondson, 2 meats.
Turkey Inzy Hammondson, MVP of the meal.
Schwab Meats, turkeys and champions of the holidays.
Schwab Meats obviously supporting NIL at both state schools, Oklahoma State and OU, but this holiday season you can pick up your order at Schwab's in downtown Oklahoma City or have it shipped straight to your home with free shipping on online orders over $75. Just use the promo code SoonerScoop at schwabmeat.com. And as you're traveling across the state or to other states, don't forget that Schwab Meat products are online at schwabmeat.com, and they're at On Q, 7-Eleven, Love's Travel Stops, and coming soon to Quick Trip Roller Grills. Most people don't realize those are Schwab dogs, but they are in most Oklahoma grocery stores. So go online, schwabmeat.com, and make your online order over $75. You can use the code SoonerScoop to get free shipping, which you guys know if you've had food shipped to you, that can be very expensive. So it's a great deal.
Real quick, can we just talk about the Arbuckle going back to Washington State stuff that had been thrown out there?
Yes.
It doesn't make any sense to me, and especially now, it would make absolutely zero sense.
And it
made no sense
rebuild.
before. It makes
Total
no sense
rebuild
now.
there.
I feel terrible for the people of Washington
man.
State.
I mean,
yes.
I was
It's a
saying
bad
this,
couple weeks.
Was saying this in the conference room where like, I get it. OU is the worst. If I'm a Washington State fan, I hate OU so much, and they've destroyed our program. But then you turn around one day later and your head coach leaves for Wake Forest, and it's like, how many hits can a fan base really? I mean, it's Lincoln Riley territory over there.
Yeah, it just sucks. I mean, you look at everything that they've lost going in, even before today in the Jake Dickert news, they'd lost their offensive coordinator, obviously. Their defensive coordinator was fired during the year. The quarterback's coach, Mateer, I think the number was 20 players to the portal, 10 of those being starters. It's a full-on rebuild right now, and it's just like timing is everything in life, right? But it's kind of crazy to think, like, if Oklahoma wouldn't have jumped on Ben Arbuckle, is he looking at being named the head coach at 29 years old right now? Like, that is a reality, but I think now that the move has been made, I know that the family, the Arbuckle family, they're actively looking for a house, like as of this afternoon still in Norman. I just don't think that there's much to it. And George, you had checked with some people in the in the world that would know, the agency world. It just doesn't seem like that is something that would be come to fruition. It doesn't seem like that's a possibility.
No, I think he wants to be at Oklahoma, and some would argue, Oklahoma offensive coordinator job might just be a better job than the head coaching job.
I think it is. You think it is. I don't know about you, Carrie, but it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense.
Well, and the Washington State, like you guys say, man, what a terrible couple weeks. It's been a terrible couple years for Washington State.
Yeah,
they were a
casualty
casualty of the new college football world. Washington State is a perfect example of what new college football era is. And all these teams, like a Texas Tech that we're seeing spend a ton of money and they could turn around their program. Colorado's done it. Ole Miss, all these teams. Washington State doesn't have that money, and they've been left behind.
Well, and they made a huge push to put together what was likely $1 million to keep John Mateer.
Yeah.
And it was just like it was clear it wasn't enough. And if you're a Washington State
close
fan,
to enough.
Like it's we're closer to Oklahoma State. Like they paid Alan Bowman $75,000 to be their quarterback, and Chandler Morris came in there and visited. And I was like, how are you going to get Chandler Morris? He wants $1 million. And where did he end up? Virginia?
Virginia, going to play for Tony Elliott, who coached with Chad Morris at Clemson. So there was a connection there.
But it's like Oklahoma State, and, I know things will change there, but they're in a terrible NIL situation. So it is really bad. And I saw somebody talking about this with that, going back to the Alabama Greg Burns stuff. College football is so screwed up right now. It's not about how big your fan base is or how passionate they are. It's about who has the most big money donors. And that's what's running college football currently. And we can talk at another pod about how to fix that and how screwed up it is. But that's the reality of it. And you need to mobilize your people that have money, that care about the football program. And everybody's getting a wake-up call right now. And I think, like we talked about earlier, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but, I think we're learning a lot about how OU operates and how they need to operate in this portal, season, whatever you want to call it, that you can compete with the Miamis and, the other teams. You just have to find a way to come together and make it happen, because it's not real easy.
And I think that
when you don't have a Larry Ellison, and I know he's not a Michigan guy, but
people need to understand too, and I get the frustration at times when look, Texas Tech is out there just throwing around crazy money, and they can just go get whoever they want.
And it's because of their
now.
donors,
right?
A group of 4 guys,
but
I think.
When you're at a school like Oklahoma that has some good, big money donors, and some people have really stepped up recently.
Yeah,
you still have to find value. Like you still have to be able to go out and get somebody that maybe doesn't cost $1 million, but you think that can help you and you're betting on. So. And maybe that's the wrong approach, but that's the approach Oklahoma's taking right now, because they can't afford to just throw $1 million at a player that's probably not worth $1 million.
Yeah.
But now when there is
like
a guy
the Georgia Tech receiver, I mean,
right? Like it's is he really worth $1 million?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think he's probably a good player, but I don't know.
You're
if he's
talking
worth
about
that much.
importance. You're talking about and these players know that they have all the cards. Like they hold all the chips in these negotiations, and especially for somebody like Mateer that, it's basically like, oh, okay, you sure you don't want me?
Yeah.
You sure you don't want to give me a little bit more?
It's frustrating for the fans because we're sitting here saying you can't have everybody you want, but then they see Texas sign everybody that they want, or Texas Tech sign everybody that they want, and they're like, well, that's Texas Tech. They're not Oklahoma. They have they have 4 billionaires that, are football crazy and will do anything to win.
Sure.
And I think that you have to look at position by position. Are there certain guys at receiver that are maybe worth $1 million? I'm sure there are. But I think that there's so many guys at receiver that you can say they can come in and help us. They can be good players. They don't cost that much. Whereas Oklahoma has shown that they will pay for premium positions. Quarterback now is obviously one. And John Mateer, they had to step up and pay quite a bit for him. Defensive tackle, going back to Dominic Williams. Obviously, they had to pay a lot of money to get him. Edge rusher, you're seeing that in retaining a guy like R. Mason Thomas. And even now, offensive line, we'll see what happens with Corey Robinson. But even going back to Walter Rouse, I mean, that cost some money. So you're seeing OU's willing to pay quite a bit of money for guys at premium positions. But when you have a spot like wide receiver that,
we'll take Cortez Mills for an example. The price just got too high. And it wasn't, for a kid out of high school, as good as he was, as highly as he was ranked, paying a kid straight out of high school, whatever, over $1 million, I would imagine. I mean, I think we're safe to say that. Near $1 million, that ruins their entire roster value.
And I get people are frustrated by that, but if you're really frustrated, become a millionaire and start giving all of it to
multimillionaire. Preferably.
Don't even do that. Put your kid's future in jeopardy. If you really love Oklahoma, take the food off the fucking table and just donate the money. Donate the meal money.
This episode is brought to you by AWS. Amazon Q Business is the new generative AI assistant from AWS. Many tasks can make business slow, like wading through mud. Help! Luckily, there's a faster, easier, less messy choice. Amazon Q can securely understand your business data to help you streamline tasks, like summarizing quarterly results or doing complex analyses in no time. Q got this. Learn what Amazon Q Business can do for you at aws.com/learn more.
Those books, they don't need it. They're in third grade. What are they going to do with it? Helen Keller didn't even get to third grade. Maybe. I don't know about that.
Oh, my God. Or, just start gambling a lot more. How about that, Eddie?
Now, that's illegal. I would not do that. I would not suggest doing that.
Well, I have a hard time figuring out your moral compass here.
Now, I do want to say...
Take the food off the table. Don't gamble.
I do want to say, all the sunshine pumping is nice. I still have no idea what the hell they're doing.
A lot of work ahead still.
The tight end position, yeah. I have no idea what they're doing at the tight end position in the portal.
And I don't think anybody does. And I don't understand. To me, and I've said it to you guys, I'm willing to say this publicly, I think the whole Joe John Finley thing is a marriage gone bad. And, whether it's just the position, look, Joe John Finley did a great job of kind of helping to, I guess, stabilize some things offensively with his play calling. He did a good job there. But now he's a tight ends coach again. And he had been making $900,000 a year as a co-coordinator. I don't know how you reconcile that. I would imagine that OU was going to him and saying, look, we're not going to fire you, but we have to pay you significantly less money. And when you get into that situation, do you now have a disgruntled employee? Do you have a guy that's recruiting as hard as he could, coaching as hard as he could? It's just one of those things. It's a bad situation to be in. I mean, as a boss, I understand that. Like, you can have employees, and it just starts to go downhill for whatever reason. And you always want to have people that are doing their best work. And when personal feelings get into it and, you've had things, you've had your salary dumped, like, you're just not going to be performing at an optimal level. And I think the best thing would be is if Joe John Finley could find another job. But I don't think you can go into spring football with Joe John Finley as your coach. A position coach at tight end.
And I don't know what's going to happen. I can't sit here and tell you.
Don't go into this second portal if you don't get what you want out of this first one.
And, there are some tight ends that they've been interested in and some guys that it feels like they have a chance at. The Nebraska tight end, especially Nate Boerkircher, I think is how you say his name, from Nebraska. Certainly an interesting guy. A&M and Bama both really want him, so we'll see if OU can get him. But it just feels like there's not a lot of direction right now with that room, like in terms of what they want to do there. So I don't know. I still think he's going to find a job somewhere else, and I think that would be in the best interest of Oklahoma and Joe John Finley. One thing, and again, I don't have, this is just me totally just kind of connecting dots. USC does have an opening for a tight ends coach. They moved Zach Henson down to the offensive line position.
Hanson.
Zach
Hanson. I get the two mixed up all the time. Yeah.
Chris Hansen?
No.
Zach Hanson, husband of Annie.
Yes.
Moved from tight ends coach to offensive line coach. Josh Henson
yes.
goes and he gets hired as the offensive coordinator at Purdue.
Chris Hansen comes into your house and says, sit down and need to have a talk with you. Yeah.
He does that, you're going to prison.
But they do have a tight ends position open, and Lincoln Riley did hire Joe John at Oklahoma. Would that be a fit? I know everybody thought Joe John might go to Purdue. Maybe it was USC all along. I don't know. I'm just trying to connect dots, but it certainly seems like everybody involved would maybe like to have a new change of scenery.
Well, and you would think that coaches would look at what Joe John Finley did this year and say, he would be someone good to have on my staff, on my offensive staff. Like, he's probably going to be able to lend some good, ideas into what we're doing.
Yeah, it's tough because I think this is one of those things that, like,
I don't know how anybody looks at the tight end room this year at Oklahoma and goes,
no, but I'm saying as a play caller, what he did as a play caller.
I guess I don't. How much of that was Joe John? How much of that is Kevin Johns? How much of that is just OU just not being terrible. Like, let's not pretend like you went out there and just set the world on fire offensively.
No, but I was impressed that
They
he
found some- they
he
just ran the
actually
ball.
said, this is what we can do, and
Yeah.
they did it.
Congratulations.
Versus what Seth Luttrell tried to do against Texas, which was invent an entire
the bar.
new offense.
All I'm saying is the bar was very low, and let's not say it was raised completely. I think that he did a nice job, but I don't
didn't
think
say he should take over for Lincoln Riley as offensive coordinator.
No. I know. I know what you're saying. I'm just saying that I don't think a lot of people are like, man, what an awesome, amazing job Joe John did.
Well,
the room was a disaster.
The thing that sucks, and I think that like everybody knows this, and this is maybe what the product is of making comfortable hires or just making convenient hires is. Like, I think that there's a lot of Oklahoma fans that now hate Seth Luttrell. They hate Joe John Finley. And that just sucks because there's nobody that loves the university more than those two, particularly. And, they're kind of their legacy or whatever you want to call it is a little bit tarnished now because of the way that Oklahoma was not able to get things together offensively, whether it be, and we've gone over this before, like there were so many different variables in why this thing was so bad this year. It's just, I don't know. It's a tough situation because I do like Joe John, and you just hope that he lands on his feet wherever that may be. And if he doesn't, and he ends up being on this staff next year, I mean, my God, they got to get better at that position. They have to. There's no other turning back. Every other position on the team right now is seemingly taking strides and getting better, except for that one room.
Yeah, I mean, we still have to see on receiver.
Sure,
yeah,
but they're at least going out and getting people, right? They're bringing people in. I mean, we only know of one tight end that's visited, right? The Ben
correct,
the Nate Borkircher kid from Nebraska, and I don't think that he's truly a difference maker, especially in the pass game, in the receiving game.
Well, the tough thing is that we know that there are tight ends that they wanted to get in that ended up committing somewhere else before they could even get that visit.
Sure, including a guy in Luke McGarry that never even sniffed Norman. I mean,
Tulsa.
he committed to Houston.
Yeah.
I mean, that's there's some people out there that would make the argument you should get fired on that alone.
Yeah.
Not to mention the shit show that's been in that room for a while now.
It's a terrible room. It's one.
And
I've
people,
said
and we'll say this: maybe Devon Mitchell ends up winning a Mackey Award and saves Joe John's job. Who knows?
People have also said to me, they're like, well, Ben Arbuckle doesn't really use the tight end. That's just not true. He definitely uses a tight end, H-back. He wants to be able to have that. Now, does he do some stuff that's very air raid and five wide? Sure, but I mean, they still want to have like 5 tight ends on the roster. I mean, I just don't buy that. And they especially want somebody. That's why Nate Burkrocher would be a really good fit. I think he could play that H-back role. You look at his receiving stats, they're not great, but he's a pretty damn good blocker that I think you could use.
It's going to be interesting because we're also going to see a lot of Michael Hawkins in the bowl game, Michael Hawkins Jr. He is pledged, we've talked to him during bowl prep. He clearly, and he stated it through his social media, he wants to stay at OU and fight for the job. And, it's admirable. I think he's best as a backup, right now. I mean, obviously, John Mateer knows this offense inside and out, has proven himself. But it'll be interesting. And look, I know Michael Hawkins Jr. is not running Ben Arbuckle's offense in this bowl game. It'll be interesting to see exactly what kind of offense they do run. I mean, and what they let Michael Hawkins Jr. do, especially facing a team that you're not likely to get a whole lot of offensive possessions against.
And we should say that, we talked to, I guess it was Deion Burks on Monday night. He did say that he's been practicing and he's trying to play in the bowl game next week.
What did he say? It's been 5 weeks or something like that. He just
trying to get
out?
I think he said something about getting his feet underneath him, I think is what he insinuated. And who knows? I mean, I think that definitely would be a shot in the arm to that receiver room. If they were just able to get him out onto the field on next Friday.
And I know we all joke that the bowl game doesn't matter, and it doesn't, but it would be nice to go and win that game and just feel a little good about yourself heading into the offseason.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I remember that bowl game, the Copper Bowl, when we talked about that. He was one of the only true freshmen to ever start at OU, or not true freshman, but freshman.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
The Copper Bowl is when Gary Gibbs got fired and Howard Schnellenberger was sitting up in the press box the entire time. So they kept giving ISO shots of Schnellenberger throughout the game. And it was Tink Collins, I think. Or not. Maybe it was Tink Collins.
I don't trust you with any of this information.
Text your dad right now.
I was 7.
Text your dad right now.
What year?
94.
94.
Well, it would have been at the end of the 93 year, right? Going into 94?
Yes.
Or it might have even been played in 94. In January of 94.
Yeah, it probably would have been played.
I just didn't know where you were going with that.
I don't now because I've totally forgot my point.
Well, people, do you see what's happening? We're keeping him up past his bedtime right now.
I don't appreciate this.
You walked into it.
Anyway.
Looking for a pickup truck to get just about anything done? Look no further. The Chevy Silverado EV isn't just the most powerful Silverado ever, with next-level towing capability and technology. It also offers game-changing versatility with the available multi-flex midgate and tailgate, which means Silverado EV helps you carry large, bulky, and oddly shaped items up to nearly 11 feet in length. Chevrolet. Together, let's drive. Visit Chevrolet.com to learn more.
I really wish I could remember what my point was, but I have no shot. Here's the other thing. There's been no activity with running backs in the portal.
I think they think that they're going to hold on to pretty much everyone. We'll see on like a Gavin Sawchuk.
I mean, there's been out. I mean,
yeah,
our guy is going to Oklahoma State.
Yeah, Caleb Hicks is headed up to Stillwater. I know for a fact too that there was some questions and just in terms of Taylor Tatum here early in the week and especially early in the portal process. The baseball team is full go. He's been down at the baseball field.
My dad said it was Eric Mitchell.
Eric Mitchell.
No, he's wrong.
Okay, well,
your dad tell Sam Story, the great Sam Story, he's wrong. Eric Mitchell did not start the Copper Bowl in '94. Or I may be losing my mind.
Well, I know which way I would bet on if gambling was legal in Oklahoma.
Sam Stoy, is that what you're saying?
I think I would bet on Sam Stoy, yes.
All right. Look, I'm just slowly going to be looking this up as I'm talking. They played BYU.
You can talk. I'll look for it.
Ron Franklin did the game. The great Ron Franklin.
R.I.P.
What were we talking about before?
A
running back position.
Broadcasting.
Oh yeah, I think Taylor Tatum. You were saying Taylor Tatum.
Saw
Eddie,
Taylor Tatum
him.
at Homeland last Friday night with Trace Ford.
Nice. What was he buying? Some groceries.
Trace's cart was really empty, and it was I left the office about 9:15, so we're standing there about 9:45. It was pretty cool. Like Trace does the morning radio stuff with us, just like Eddie does with Danny. So we kind of know each other more than I would most players. And it was kind of one of those, I was trying to do like a flyby, and Trace was like, oh no, I got time. I got nothing going on. And so I see Nigel Smith and by the way, it is sounding more and more, there was some talk about Nigel Smith entering the portal, but it seems like that's died off.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like he will be back, which is good news. I mean, you want to keep the guys that you sign in some of these classes, and especially guys that people think have a bright future at Dorman, and I'd never heard anything negative about Nigel Smith going through the redshirt season. The starting quarterback for Oklahoma in the OU BYU Copper Bowl, a 9-3 BYU team defeats a 6-5 Oklahoma team 31-6. You have any final guesses, Gary?
I don't think it's either one of those guys that we've talked about.
It's not.
It was a guy that they moved him from another position.
His name. Terrence Brown.
Terrence Brown, yes.
13 for 30, one interception, 163 yards.
I want to say
29-yard throw. That was his longest.
A high school quarterback, but he was a receiver, and they moved him for that game because they didn't have anybody else.
Shout out James Allen. He went 11 for 39 in the game. Gerald Moore led the team in rushing that day, 9 for 41. PJ Mills, shout out to
those were some
two
great
carries,
names.
15 yards on the day for Oklahoma. It certainly seemed like it was a little bit of a struggle bus offensively. Broderick Simpson led Oklahoma in tackles that day with 13.
I am going to find an old folks home to sponsor this segment every show that just happens to happen. Carrie talks about old stuff in OU football.
I think that would be great content.
Okay, so look, George, let's recap. We've talked about it. They want to be done on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Visits upcoming starting tomorrow.
Corey Robinson, Georgia Tech offensive tackle. I think he was the starter at right tackle this year. I'd have to check real quick. But James Thompson from Wisconsin, defensive tackle. And then you have Lucas Canario. Is that how you say his name?
Cornerio, yeah.
They couldn't get it right on the broadcast.
The kicker from Western Kentucky, he's coming in on Friday. Other than that, there's been a few more guys kind of pop up that I don't think have set visits, but could.
Expressed interest in visiting.
Yes. Cam Vaughn, the wide receiver from Jacksonville State, definitely wants to. Devontae Ross was supposed to be in town today. Sounds like he had a scheduling conflict. Was that him saying, hey, I'm going somewhere else? I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. Also, as we've been recording this, Deshaun McKnight, defensive tackle from UT Martin, was offered by Oklahoma. So I think there was a couple other offers that went out today. It certainly seems like they're maybe looking at adding at least one, maybe two defensive tackles. I think there's some thought of, what's going to happen with Dominic Williams. You obviously saw Ashton Sanders go into the portal today. I think they just want to make sure they have some quality depth there. When you lose a guy like DJ Terry, you don't really know
depth.
Yeah, and you don't know what's going to happen with Dominic Williams. We talked to him on Monday as well, and he said that he hadn't made a decision. He was hoping to make one by next week. I think that Oklahoma's preparing for if he were to maybe jump into the portal. So we'll see. There's also several defensive ends out there that I know Oklahoma's interested in. Logan George is a name to keep an eye on, the defensive end from Idaho. We'll see. I know there's been some talks about maybe him visiting. I don't know if that's happened yet. Trying to work on that, but I'm sure that some guys will pop up over the next few days and over the weekend.
Yeah, and like you said, there's still names going in, and there may be some. I'll tell you what. If I was a pretty decent player, I'd probably wait until later in the portal process. I know some of the big money is gone then, but you get a lot more desperate people. 10 days into the portal than you do when it first starts. But yeah, if you want to get the big, like Zachariah Brandt should have been out on day one.
How do we think the numbers are going to work out? And this might be a question for later on in the year, and especially after we get out of bowl season. But how active will they be in that spring portal?
I think it depends on, will more guys jump in the portal? I could see maybe
depending
running back.
on who it is too.
Yeah, I think I could see a running back or two jumping in there. I still don't know what Sam Franklin's going to do. There's been some talk about maybe he would jump in the portal.
If I had to guess, I would say probably portal, because I don't know if he's going to fit into the plans. He obviously didn't really truly fit into the plans, for the most part this season, unless it was, kind of an emergency type of deal. I know that, we haven't necessarily heard anything about Xavier Robinson. I would imagine he's talked about his affinity for Oklahoma growing up in the state. You wouldn't think that he's somebody that's looking around, but you just never know with these guys.
Yeah, so I think they will be active. And I mean, look, if Joe John Finley leaves later in the year, people forget that like DeMarco Murray almost left. What was that, like March last year when
I want to say it was right before spring.
Ohio State came calling, so it could be a while. And if he were to leave, talking about Joe John, maybe you have to go out and get a tight end or two in the spring portal. Who knows?
Yeah, and I think By the way, give me an update. I know you've kind of reached out to the family and had some discussions, but give me your thoughts on Ethan O'Connor, the defensive back from Washington State.
Good question, and I haven't mentioned that. I do think they'll probably try to add a corner. Will it be Ethan O'Connor? I don't know. He went on visits to Miami and Georgia as well. And when you play with the big boys, you just never know. And those are two schools that can obviously pay a lot of money and also are two good programs. So it sounds like he's trying to make a decision by the weekend sometime.
And it sounds like an instant starter.
Yes, he does.
It might have to be one of those, hey, money men, gather.
Yes, I think that Miami especially offered him a very large deal. And then Georgia, I think, is a situation where it's like it's Georgia. And if you can go play for Georgia, it's tough to turn that down. We'll see.
Me, George, that is a position.
Life in the fast lane.
Yeah.
The cornerback position, guys, I mean, look, Eli Bowen's going to be fine, but he had a rough ending to the year. I mean, got beat in some one-on-ones to some really good receivers at LSU.
He had that one bad game that I think everybody in their back of their minds were going, this true freshman's going to have this moment at some point.
But you still look at what he did with Ryan Williams at Alabama, how well he played there. He's got a great, bright future.
The future at cornerback, and especially with Eli, it seems like he could be he could be a superstar before it's all said and done. It feels like.
But you've lost some depth and some potential guys. I mean, I saw we
still
saw,
don't know what's going on with Gentry.
I don't know. I mean, if you get Gentry back and healthy and he can play the entire season,
that's a massive if.
It's a massive if. But it also, would be a huge boost.
They definitely want to add a veteran corner in the room, and
look, Kenai Walker was a good backup, but I mean, when you had to press him into service and you were playing press coverage outside, like that wasn't his forte.
I do think that there is something to be said too, just in terms of, with Oklahoma and the guys that they've lost so far in the portal. I don't think that there's been anybody that we've just looked at each other and necessarily gone, oh shit, like that's a big, massive loss. They do need to start getting guys in that can continue to develop the competitive depth. That kind of became a cliche line, but they are losing a number of guys like a Kenai Walker that has given them quality depth.
Yeah.
And, for a guy like a Kenai, he's started games.
Remember when Brent came in, all he talked about was competitive depth, and they've taken a hit there.
And I want to say this too, and I think I said this on the YouTube show. Brent very much believes in their young talent. I mean, he's talked a lot in recent weeks about, 81 freshmen and sophomores that they have. And some of those guys, a couple of them have entered the portal. But I think that everybody just assumed OU was going to go out and add 20 guys in the transfer portal. And they've lost a lot, 20-some guys in the transfer portal. I don't think that's the case. I think that they feel like they have a lot of really good young talent that's going to develop into really good players, and that's what they're betting on. Now, there's obviously some positions of need that they have to add in the portal, but I don't think the plan was ever to add 20-some guys like you're going to see programs like Ole Miss or Texas Tech or some of these, Colorado. That's not the plan at Oklahoma. I think that they want to add around 10 to 12 guys and at quality positions that they absolutely have to have. But other than that, I think they really like some of the guys they already have on the roster. And you're right, Eddie. They haven't lost anybody other than Nick Anderson, who I still think is going to be a really good player if he can be healthy. And maybe even a Desan McCullough. Other than that, there hasn't been anybody that's like, man, what a
Farouk when healthy was good to have in your rotation.
Yeah. And I still, we'll see. I haven't really seen anything on Farouk.
Yeah, and who knows? I think that the way the thing that we've learned here during this portal cycle, never count anybody out. Who's to say that Jalil Farouk sees John Mateer and says, hey, reaches back out to Emmett Jones? Once you enter the portal, doesn't mean that you just have to completely burn the bridge with the previous school, right? And who knows? I don't think that would happen. But maybe in the back of my brain, I'm hoping that something like that were to happen.
I will say this. One guy in the portal for me, in you're torn because you don't know if he's ever going to be the same player again because of all the issues he's had. But I would have loved to seen Andrell Anthony stay. I mean, it disappointed me that he hit the portal.
I agree. But I don't know. I also just don't think you can count on that guy. When you have a knee injury like that and it hasn't, healed the way that you wanted it to, that's tough, man. That's really, really tough. So
it'll take him a lot to gain back his confidence.
And that's the thing with these receivers is you just OU, I don't want to say they just moved on from these guys. I definitely think that's kind of what happened, but they just can't. Next year's a make or break year, and you can't bet on the guys that this whole year weren't available.
Yeah.
It's too risky.
I don't think they, processed them. I just think it came out in the NIL negotiations. Just this is your value. You're a guy that's
and their value
dipped.
No matter what they did a couple years ago, which was great. Those guys were awesome in 2023. Nick Anderson was a superstar, but you just are like, man, what have you done for me lately?
Well, and I think David Stone's value dipped. I mean, he got paid as a 5-star recruit coming in at a critical position. And he was just kind of a part-time guy this year.
Some interesting news coming out of the bowl preview show tonight that Brent Venables was on with the great Chris Plank. Ben Arbuckle will coach OU quarterbacks.
Eddie, did you listen to me
in
on
the Armed Forces Bowl?
Did you listen to me at all on our show?
No.
Literally yesterday?
No.
I literally said that.
Did you?
Yes.
Didn't completely.
Did you hear me,
Carrie?
I was like, he's coaching the quarterbacks.
I'm
I
so many
didn't know
things
that he was
in
going to do it in the bowl game. I knew that he was out at practice and stuff.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
I guess I didn't say that part, but he's been coaching the quarterbacks.
Obviously won't call plays or anything
No.
like that. Well, my apologies. I'm truly that
Man, Eddie
completely
reposted another journalist too that tweeted it.
Unbelievable.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Betrayal in the studios.
Well, it's getting late.
All this
trying to
work
watch
that we've
OU
been
basketball.
All this work that we've been doing for the last 3 days, just slaving away and sitting around and being bored. George hooked up the freaking PlayStation today. I never thought that thing was ever going to be plugged in again.
As soon as I did, the news started breaking when that happened.
That is true.
And
I
you
knew
also-
that as soon as that happened, we just needed to leave, or I needed to say I'm going to go back to the city.
It's like when
I
you
would have got
say-
halfway up I-35
And then
north
when it
and then
burned,
had
yeah.
to turn around.
It's like when you're sitting waiting for something, and you're like, I'll order a pizza, and then as soon as you order the pizza, it's like, oh shit, whatever you
That
want.
happens.
Then you're having cold
Sure.
pizza.
Yes.
Yes. All right. By the way, how's basketball going? It's halftime.
OU is down by 5 at the under 4 timeout.
Okay.
They've sustained a couple big runs from Michigan. I think this is a really, really bad matchup for OU. The 2 7-footers inside.
big.
The Matthew
They're
Golden,
hanging in there,
The
though.
Matthew Golden kid is extremely good. He was on the FAU team that went to the Final Four, I believe, with Dusty May. But yeah, they've sustained a couple big runs. They're gonna need to sustain one more, not be down by double digits at halftime, and give yourself a chance going into the second half.
All right, we're going to keep you guys up to date on everything that's going on in the portal. As Eddie has been telling you, you can sign up right now for just $1. Get 7 days of coverage for just $1. See how you like it, and then either cancel or become a member. So take advantage of that. You don't even have to have a code. Just go sign up on the website. It'll give you that offer, $1 for 7 days.
Matthew Golden's a wide receiver for Texas too.
So did you just old man?
Well, no, his last name's Golden, but I think it's some type of Russian name, I believe.
When are we potting next week?
It's a good question.
Yeah, we do have a little bit of a weird schedule next week with, obviously Christmas falling on Wednesday.
We'll definitely do an Eskridge post-game show.
Sure, Friday.
We'll play it by ear. I mean,
great Will Douglas's rehearsal dinner.
Maybe we do something on Monday, real short, before we all get out of town.
We could do something on Monday or maybe Tuesday. Because the
Christmas
24th
Eve?
is the 24th is Wednesday or Tuesday? Okay.
Tuesday.
So yeah, Monday. Maybe we can do some. If really big stuff happens, we'll come in on Sunday or something.
Sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll have a limited schedule next week. Everybody will be off for the 24th and 25th, and then we will head. Eddie, it's great. There's no San Antonio on Christmas this year. You're not going to have to go to a bowl game.
I know. I was
on
really
Christmas.
hoping that we would get that honor again. That was so much fun.
I'm going to tell you, it was less fun for George and I than it was for you.
Definitely. Eddie was miserable on that trip.
I think as
I
anybody
pulled over
should
the
be,
car at one
as
point.
anybody should be if they have to be in San Antonio on Christmas.
Dude, I still want to go back to that restaurant that George booked for us.
Yeah, it was okay.
Yeah, you were shitting on it too. Okay, there we
Jesus Christ, Eddie.
It was. It was okay.
It was
good.
great.
It was pretty good.
You guys need to get out more.
I get out plenty. I
God.
go to all your restaurants that you don't have to pay at.
Everybody needs to go to Birdie's. That's all I'm saying.
That's payola. That's actually
Birdie's.
not.
Birdie's is
That's a radio
incredible.
thing, not an internet thing. I need to go to Birdie's. I'm the only one that watches the Food Network around here. The fat
I
guy,
watch the Food
all right?
Network.
What's your favorite show?
I mean, it's hard to beat Diners, Drive-Ins, and What Dives or whatever.
But that's just him going to.
Yeah, but I like
what's your favorite competition show?
Top Chef.
That's not on the Food Network.
Oh, it's not?
No.
What's it on now?
That's on Bravo.
No, I don't know.
So you don't watch the Food Network?
No, but I do like Guys Grocery
Jesus.
Games. Guys Grocery Games. That's a fun show. Where they have to go around and
Tournament of Champions is the all-time
Tournament
best.
Champions is good.
Yeah.
Trust me, I watched it. When I
Okay.
lived in Denver, I watched a lot of Food Network.
How is the is Oklahoma City just killed Denver in restaurants now?
Yes. Denver's
Oklahoma City's like a very underrated.
Yes. Oh, yeah, I know
culinary-
this. Yeah,
we've talked about this before.
Denver had some good spots, but I don't think Denver is known for its food.
Here's
Known
the
for its
thing.
pot.
Here's the thing.
which you said you love, Mrs. Stoya.
Did he get his cigarettes back after you used those as a prop the other day?
No, they were props, but if they were real, he took them. I don't know where he went. I think Aaron started smoking again.
She did.
Anyway, all right. We'll try and drag Josh back again next week too. And I swear to God, we're going to start Hoops Reports at some time.
He'll be on the.
It will happen.
I think we're going to catch up with Josh. You can catch him on the YouTube tomorrow.
Okay,
and we can do something and get his thoughts on the big news today. I mean, and it's going to get lost in the mix. Obviously, Mateer news is massive, but I think the wide receiver thing, it's at the very least interesting. I think the Gibson kid is.
I like this tape a lot.
He might end up being a somebody. We'll see.
I mean, he obviously runs better routes than most of the guys that they were.
I'm not throwing shit at him, but I would rather take my chances with Giovanni Gibson other than over somebody like a JJ Hester.
Yeah.
Like, is that fair?
Yeah, that's
just
totally
to take
fair.
the opportunity to see what he can be.
Yeah.
We know what Hester is.
My dad, just one last note, did text me about the 1994 Copper Bowl and said it was awful and that he's
it's terrible. Yeah.
He's glad that he doesn't remember it.
Very good.
Thank you to the great Sam Stoya. All right, that's going to do it. We'll be back next week at some point, probably a Monday, but a very condensed week of broadcasting, both on YouTube and the podcast. But we will be at the bowl game. We'll all be there, so the post-game podcast should have no technical issues. The Eskridge Lexus post-game podcast. So, and Hoops Reports will be coming. I know the women, they won their game with Michigan yesterday. They'll be back in the LNC, I think, Sunday.
Yeah, both teams are.
Okay.
I think it's a little doubleheader.
Okay.
At the Loden Noble Center on Sunday.
So that'll be good. And look, you guys all have a, if you don't hear from us again, have a happy Christmas, a Merry Christmas, and a very good, we'll talk to you before the new year. But for all you guys going over to Fort Worth, hope you enjoy your trip and get to spend plenty of time with family. Don't forget to pick up some of those Schwab dogs while you're out there going through a On-Q 7-Eleven, Loves, or even the Quick Trip. So it's always nice getting to Gainesville and seeing the Quick Trips. And all right, that's going to do it for us. We will be back again soon right here on the Unofficial 40 podcast at Soonerscoop.com.